We're live.
Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is October 6th, 2024. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Please, please subscribe. Also want to thank the Venice Oceanfront Walk for providing a space where musicians can come and play. That's where I met Raine. It's really an honor and a pleasure. Raine Stern, where in the heck you calling in from?
We're calling in from near like Inglewood area. We're close to southern downtown, somewhere between the two. I'm not gonna give out the specific geolocation.
Okay. Inglewood has deep history. It's where Tina Turner and Ike Turner had their studios. So the first question, Raine, is what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being, I think, is their own authenticity. But I would also say sleep.
Oh, I love both of those. Because if you're trying to have your own authenticity, you got to take a nap once in a while also.
Oh my God, do you? Yeah, and I say both of those things because I think that when I have both of those things, you know, pretty much everything else in my life tends to roll a bit more smoothly, because it's like you have some good sleep, you have a better understanding what's going on around you, just like your systems work and function better. And I think, for some people, they could say love, totally. Or some people could say, I can hear somebody saying, what's the best thing for a human being? Community. And I would agree with all of these things, right? But I think the reason I say sleep and authenticity, and, obviously this is coming from my own lens and my own bias, right? But my own particular needs is that I think love is something that's, in the same way that people believe in an omniscience, I believe that it's ever present. And I think that it's something that you can provide for yourself. I just think that we need to be well in order to do so. And so having that kind of clarity that comes with that wellness, which, you can drink and eat all day and have all the sunshine in the world. But for me in particular, especially a person like me who's mind just buzzes and goes, it's really, really critical to have that rest so that things can gel. And I guess the last thing I'll say with my wordy response to this before we get into question number 2 or whatever else you were going to say about it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is that, I don't necessarily know that, or know that I would say, the thing a human being needs the most is something external, because that's unreliable. And if you need something external in order to not be sociopathic, let's say, of course you need love and support, but after more or less normal healthy development, I think that I think 99.9% of human beings are intrinsically good and or at least are have all of the stuff to be good. And so I think what people mostly need is their own authenticity and a really strong connection to their own inner voice, because so much of the time I think our happiness comes from being too easily swayed off path, and not knowing how to differentiate between, wanting what somebody else has, for example, and thinking that you want what somebody else has, but it being incorrect for you. Not everybody needs or wants the same things, and the most important thing is that you want yourself, I think.
Really good, Raine, and I appreciate it because I'm all for tangents, anecdotes, and stories. Feel free.
Okay,
And
great.
the second question is, what is your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Mm. Ooh, feelings.
Yeah.
Um, for me, um, it's very actually exhausting trying to intellectualize matters that are of the heart.
Yeah.
And I think something I'm realizing is that my feelings, like, when I get too into my head, that's when the question of am I a good person, and then the behaviors that ensue of like, oh my god, that wasn't necessarily the best, like, you know plan of attack or lack thereof. And so now I'm starting to question myself in ways that, like, had I really not been thinking so hard but continuing to trust initially, like, again, my own authenticity, the fact that, my heart and my core is in the right place, and listen to those feelings, because ultimately, um I think, and this is probably something you've learned over the course of your life, is that it seems to me that we don't really ever have anything figured out, or like truly know what's right or what's wrong or whatever. I mean, like, you can have a general moral compass, but otherwise, things are so fluid and ever moving. And so I think it's better to, like, fail faster, win faster, move on faster. Obviously have some patience, right? But I think the two actually go hand in hand. So, like, having the patience to be willing to fail, and having the patience to be willing to be wrong or to try something a dozen times and not get it, I actually think will get you somewhere fruitful quicker. So the best way that I like to receive information and process it and then also output it is via really uh, earnest, raw feelings. Um, because I've been deceived by somebody's, words or intellect before, but people don't really deceive me with their feelings.
Wow. That is so observant of the human condition. You're anticipating all our questions. It's really beautiful. Well, the two things you evoked, Raine, was Lily Tomlin says, reality is just a collective hunch. And when you said the part about the moral compass, we're all sort of feeling this hunch. We know what's going on, but the beauty is that we don't. In that resonating interval of knowing and not knowing is
Right.
where the action is. And my mom always said this thing about patience that I love. She said, God, give me patience and give it to me now.
Let's go, mom. I love
So,
that.
do thoughts create emotions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that, and this actually really ties into what I was just saying, which is that, and which I think is what you were just saying, is that um that's why I think it's important that, you know you touch a hot stove, your feelings tell you, ouch. You should probably listen to those feelings right away and move with it and towards it. Now, are your feelings always accurate? Not necessarily, but that's actually kind of not the point that I'm making. Because I think it's more about accepting that failure and inaccuracy and maybe even delusionalism or whatever, like, all of that is, like, inherently comes with the human experience. And so trying to, like, hit the nail on the head 100% of the time is actually the most delusional thing, like trying to constantly get it right. And so I say this to say that I have tried to ascertain something in life before life decided to life, or before any movement was involved. And unfortunately, especially the younger you are and the less life experience you have, like, even the more difficult that can be. But on the flip side of that coin, because things are constantly changing and the world isn't, even remotely similar to the way that it was 100 years ago, in that way, there's something that's really intelligent about freshness and, like, a lack of expectation. And so, but having expectations, trying to, like, have a firm grasp on everything, and not, and like, resisting flow, has been a major source of pain for me in my life. And I know that that attempt at thinking through everything all the time instead of just processing my feelings, which is where like all of that beauty and all of that connection that people feel with me comes from, actually, is from that place of just like surrender. And so when I'm thinking, you know, everything's going to work out, my feelings, follow suit. And when I'm thinking, oh God, there's something wrong with me, my feelings follow suit. And we can definitely make ourselves sick, or we can make ourselves healthier, or we can find more connection or more separation in our thoughts. And so I'm trying to learn how to be, I'm a person whose brain is like open like this, and I've got like this strong antenna to just that which is out there all the time. And I think something I'm working on within myself right now, very transparently with you and everyone else, is working on letting that just be, and not identifying with everything that's coming in, and I'm not attaching my self-worth to like information, because go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's really good, because William Blake said, "We become what we behold." But you anticipated each question. It's really beautiful. Not only are you super cool, you play funk guitar and you play lead really good. You know how to talk, so I'm really having fun. Raine, the next question is fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
Ooh, make music.
that is good, because McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion said, I don't know what I think until I write it. And it's beautiful,
Totally.
because a lot of people have, I've interviewed 1,000 people in 40 years. A lot of people say, I don't know what I think until I do it or experience it. And I was almost anticipating that you were going to say, I don't know what I think until I feel it. But by saying make music, that to me is the ultimate, because Walter Pater, and we're going to get into music after all these philosophical questions, but Walter Pater said it best. He said, all art aspires to the condition of music, like painting, poetry, architecture, conversation, all wishes it could be as cool as music.
It so does. It so does, Jerry. I have in other words, same sentiment, said that before.
Yeah,
I'm like, music is the like heart of art. Like if art is all one body and it's all one
yeah,
expression of the human condition,
yeah,
or even just of life, period, because I don't think that we're the only creatures that, express and create and make art. And I also think that maybe this will lead to something else you're planning on bringing up later, but um, I don't think that, like, I think it's arrogant, rather, is what I'm trying to say, to assume that we know things like like um what God is,
yeah,
or that if we know like how many life forms are in the universe.
yeah,
Or I think to me, one of the smartest things I ever learned was this. When I said this out loud to myself, I went, okay, that might be ironically one of the truest things that I've ever heard, is the more I know, the more that I know that there's more to know.
oh yeah,
And so it's like one of those things where, like, the more you uncover something, you're like, oh, I'm learning so much. And the percentage of your understanding, in a way, of that which you don't know actually grows. So as your understanding grows, so does your understanding of your lack of understanding.
you, dude, that is totally it. You could touch so many. Bob Dylan learned from the Bible, don't ever tell anyone everything you know. So the day I met you on the boardwalk, as soon as we started talking, I wanted to tell you everything I know, and I wanted you to tell me everything you knew.
You're
But
like,
we,
no, God.
and then Cage nailed it. John Cage said he learned from his teacher that the purpose of the function of music is to soothe the soul and make it susceptible to divine intervention. So
Yes.
when you went, and so it's like that's the amazing thing. And lastly, the thing about music is you play music.
Yeah.
Even I learned last week, artwork. You don't you make art, I guess, but everything you work at, but with music you play at it. So
Yeah.
that's why it's so cool. Now, here's the next one, Raine.
Yes.
Can humans think without language?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Some again, tying into everything else that you've said and that I've said, some of my favorite conversations have been wordless.
Yeah.
And I mean, because let's actually, out of curiosity, I'm gonna look up, because obviously we're interpolating this, because actually, oh my goodness, Jerry, so many thoughts. So, I mean, thinking uh is something that we're doing right now, right? But then we're also like, is my body's ability to perceive other things and process other information and all this other stuff, like, if is thinking just a type of information processing, right? I'm gonna actually look it up. What is the technical definition of thinking?
Well, yeah.
Thinking. Let's find out.
And then if you go to etymology, where the word came from, but it's also it's something like wisdom and knowledge and learning from. We're going to go into the difference between experience and understanding also.
Totally. Okay,
But
so
but that's the question, Rain. You get the bonus question: is thinking more innate or more invented?
I think um wow. Um I believe in my ability to convincingly answer that in almost any direction.
That's
And
it.
so and so and so as a result, I'm going to say that the smartest thing that I could say is um yes and no, and I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's all these binaries I set up at the beginning. Of course, it's both and it depends, but they're really just prompts. That's what
Yeah.
I always say. You don't have to answer the question. It's
Yeah.
just a prompt because we're just filling content. But here's
We're playing, actually. It's almost
yeah,
like
we're playing. We're
playing.
filling content. But here is Chomsky. Language is not just words. It's
No.
a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a
Yeah.
whole history that creates what a community is.
Yeah.
What do
It's
you do?
context.
What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Right. Well, I think that's where you lean into feelings, because
Yeah.
feelings are actually timeless.
Yeah.
Culture is inherently is of a zeitgeist. It's of an era.
Yeah.
It's of a moment. It's of a setting. It's of a place.
Yeah.
So, but something that actually uh, transcends all of that is something that's timeless, like the love a mother feels for her child.
Yeah.
That those things, like something like that, could frankly like give a rat's ass about culture.
Yeah.
And so those are the kinds of things that, like, I think end up becoming, for probably a lot of people, but I'll speak for myself, becoming like my truth pillars. And I think that's like what I'm drawn to in the world of playing music and dancing with it and creating in it, because I'm drawn to truth, but I also know that most of what I'm perceiving is subjective. And
Yeah.
so the only things that really feel consistent, that feel like truth to me, are things like that. Are things like the divine, like what you were saying, uh our ability to, I actually look at it this way. I was driving home a couple days ago, and this is the type of thought that just is happening in the world of Raine Stern on a pretty consistent basis, which is something like, you know, all of what this is, perceive it how you may, and interpret it according to your own cultural understanding and whatnot. But all of this is one big act of worship for me.
Yeah.
I cannot and will not try to, with my words. I actually feel like, how dare I, with my words or with my anything, with my existence at all, like put into a box that which I am worshiping, because then it wouldn't really be worth my worship.
Yeah.
And so if it was entirely within my understanding, it's only somewhat within my understanding. And you know what? Maybe even if it was entirely within my understanding, just like life, consciousness, love, um, existence at all, the ability to dance or to murder or to do any of these things that are options at my disposal. Like, I actually think all of it's like that kind of free will is worth celebration. I think that one the reason I'm so drawn to music is because it's something that it like transcends language in that way. And I think that whether or not people are in agreement about the nitty-gritty details of life, I think that we're all like worshiping and celebrating and grieving and doing all of these things together and kind of at once when we're listening to and singing and dancing along like the rhythm and the, music. And because everything is, we can get all spiritual and sciencey about it at the same time. And I'm not the first nerd to say this, right? But like, everything's vibrating constantly. So it's
Yeah.
like the universe is, as we understand it, just like making sound, whether that's like perceivable or not. Everything is like, light is noise too. Like, everything is just singing constantly. I mean that's what the universe means, right? It means like one song or something like that.
That
Um,
is so sharp. But here's the next one, and it's your observations of humans in general. Are
mm,
we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
I think that we're more feeling beings, and that we're lying to ourselves if we think that we're more thinking beings.
That is so cool because Bridget Bardot says, "When I make love, I don't think." And it's like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off? That's like people who meditate go, now think about not thinking. And there's a bumper sticker on a car on my street and it says, don't believe everything you think. And I go, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
No, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think here's I agree with all of that at once. I think that, okay. I also feel that. Um,
Well, that's funny, Raine, because here's how most people answer it. I think we're more feeling beings. They literally say, and you said it, and it's so natural for us to answer a question like that. I think
right,
my friend actually flips it. He goes, I feel we're more thinking.
sure. I think. Well, so I think. Well, so we're also very, very programmed, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but and that's like the fun that comes uh with thinking, is that it is inventive, right? Like, the thinking part of us is kind of, I think something. It's the thing that makes us kind of go, oh God, like, and we are godly. because we can think and all this other stuff. But what is like the incentive without the feelings?
Yeah.
Like if I didn't actually crave comfort, why would I think to build a more comfortable home?
Yeah.
And so I think that feelings are the driver. And I think that we build a car around the driver. Like all of our inventions, all of our monetary system, everything is really ultimately structured around a human being's feelings. And we know that too. I mean, that's what marketing is, that's what psychology is. We use our brains to think about our feelings. Really.
That's so sharp. Here's two from Alan Turing in the 50s. One is thinking a function of the soul.
Yeah, everything is.
Yeah, good.
Everything is a function of the soul.
The second Turing question is, can machines think?
I think that machines can process information. Now, the way that I see thinking and feeling and spirituality as being like inseparable, in that way, no.
Yeah.
I don't think that artificial intelligence or robots or my computer has that incentive. I think that like there needs to be a driver. And what is the point of continuing to live like if you have no emotional or spiritual incentive? And then what's the point of like thinking about science and thinking about medical solutions and thinking about how to build the best spaceship to continue traversing space without the emotional incentive of like, or that like fear of I don't want to end, which isn't really like a thought that you have without desire. And so desire is something that is a motivator. It's really like that, and our spiritual self, I think, is really like at the core of how we move through life. And we're supposed to use our better judgment and our thinking to essentially navigate and control like the horse that is our emotions. But if we're being real, like our best and brightest and oldest spiritual teachers refer to like our body and our emotions as like the elephant, and then our prefrontal cortex as the rider. And even if we were to just look at our brain itself, that particularly complex part of our thinking process is not the majority of our gray matter. Like it's not the majority of the physical density of our brain. Like most of it is older and is back here. And then we've got this little bit that's like doing a lot of that work. And it's actually really interesting when you like liken it to something like a computer chip and how like tiny they can be, and how without that thing, like most of my phone is like not that intelligent. You know what I mean? Like it's mostly just stuff. Right? Like isn't it mostly just, but then like the parts of it you remove like one little metal electric circuit connection, and it's no longer like it no longer matters.
Yeah.
Which is another question. It's like what makes something matter?
No, that's Captain Beefheart has a great poem. The stars are matter, we are matter, but it doesn't matter. Okay, Raine, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Meaning.
Yeah, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he says, meaning tends to last, happiness doesn't necessarily last.
Yeah.
So does the brain more, and you brought up this word, does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Well, now see, this makes me want to like bring dreams into the conversation,
Right.
right? Because detecting a dream, creating the dream, um, ingesting a mind altering substance, and then seeing or perceiving more differently or even less sometimes. Um, hmm. Uh, Also, like ideas. I know that a lot of this stuff, like, is unbeknownst to us, right? Like, it almost feels like it's bubbling up from somewhere. And of course, you know, our life experiences and our biochemistry is almost more like an equation or a formula that you like plug life into, and then it spits out a slightly more specific answer, right? But um is consciousness this thing that's just there and we like can perceive it and tap into it and interact with it? Or, I mean, okay, so where, if consciousness is a result of a very specific um structure of matter, then I suppose in that way we're creating consciousness, but also the stuff created us. And so it's a very chicken and egg question in a way. To me it's
Yeah.
a very chicken and egg question. It's kind of circular because I think that these kinds of questions are like very theological, because this is kind of the type of root and reasoning and line of thinking that leads a lot of people to say something along the lines of like, well, by deduction, or
Yeah.
by this like line of deduction, um a consciousness beyond myself, maybe a super consciousness beyond myself, must exist. um it which is so fascinating. This is where I kind of come back to my feelings, even my thinking, all kind of point to this like mysterious. It feels more enriching, it feels more inspiring, more beauty, more manifests itself when I believe that um when I believe that something like that is true. Which is really fucking interesting, because when I go, ah, things are falling apart, therefore, like, God doesn't exist, it makes me go, well, how am I even to say exactly like what that is,
Yeah.
especially if I'm just like a piece or a result of something. If I'm a result of something else, then I'm clearly not the something else. I'm part of the something else.
Yeah.
And so the something else can wrap its head around me, but I can't wrap my head around it.
Wow.
And that brings like a level of fascination, but also humility. It can bring a level of fear if like your desire to control or like is overrides your desire to celebrate. And I think that's what I'm kind of wanting and hoping to lean into, and to like invite other people into the process of with me. I mean, these are great questions, Jerry. I really love your question choices and your interview style, and like your conversationalism, but also your space holding. It's really it's well done, and I wanted to acknowledge that before moving on.
Wow. Well, thank you, Raine. You're great. I mean, how many people have on their business card, great, guitarist, composer, a conversationalist, great conversationalist. Because I
Engaging
have to,
conversationalist, yeah.
yeah, I love that. When I read that, I says that's so because I have Frank Zappa's earliest business card, and it said, and you'll love this. It said composer, master blues guitarist.
Yeah.
Because that's what he was at that point in his life. Because
Right.
I hope you never stop talking, because you're a wordsmith too, but there's a lot of feeling and thought behind your words. So here's the next one. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Light for sure. Come on. But also, well, I think light and like electricity, right, are kind of one and the same to an extent. And so, I mean, I could go do some of my research on this really quick. I'm pretty sure light is electricity. Light is light electricity. I'm actually okay. What is the difference? Light, really quick. Electricity. What is so? Light, and electricity different several ways. And then I'll get back to your question, but I have to know. So, light is created by the vibration of electrically charged particles, right? Okay, so everything, while electricity is created by the flow of charged particles. Ooh.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Raine, when people say the speed of thought is faster than the speed of light, I literally go, oh, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right, because we thought up light, speed, and electricity. We thought up those words.
Right.
So it is a stupid question in the big picture, but it's just another prompt. But let's go into this, because this is you brought up tools, and this is how language is a tool. Language is made up. I mean, verbal
Yeah.
language is made up.
Yeah.
Because it was back to I'm going to ask you this question later. What's more fundamental musical language? But not yet. This is Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Redder said you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
I want you to ask me that question. I'm with you. I want you to ask me that question in like even more.
Yeah, here's what I'm basing.
I want it to stay as like open ended as that. But like if you if you're okay, go ahead.
Here's how it goes. When I say you put the questions into the context you want, the basic question is, what tool do you most gravitate towards? If you want to add the word new, you can. And if you want to use Audre Lorde's quote, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. That can be done too, but she's probably speaking, she's a gay Black poet who's speaking probably about white supremacy, or like Frank Zappa said, who are the brain police? He didn't say, oh, the brain police are these evil capitalist corporate people, or the brain police is the voice inside your brain. He just asked the question. So it's really simply meaning, what tool do you gravitate towards? If you want to add the word new, you can. And if you want to add dismantling the master's house, you can.
Well, I suppose I'll let like my existence in the grand scheme of what we know time to be the new thing, because I'm pretty new then. so anything that I say is going to be new, and also not. It's going to have newly come out of my mouth on October 6th. Wow. There's so much there. I love all of it. Okay. So that actually you can't you can't undo the master's house with the master's tools, with their own tools. Yeah, I mean, okay, because in a way, if we're talking about like bigotry, you definitely can't like undo bigotry in another, when it was like created in another person's mind and perception. Especially if we're talking about something like racism. If I'm the victim of racism, and and I wasn't the first person to have this thought, but it was like the other person to be like, oh, I need to control, you know. Actually, honestly, everything is about control. Ultimately, everything is about, like, even in that situation, racism is ultimately like about resources and stuff, and like, in a way, classism. I mean, classism is a more nuanced version of that, but like, even before we had class, like, you do still have like, this is my animal, this is my patch of land, like, this is my, you know, my family. And it comes down to like resource guarding, which my dog has a problem with, you know. And so like, it would be nice if we could be a little bit more emotionally and spiritually evolved than my own dog, um, as human beings. Tool, I'm definitely, I haven't forgotten anything you've said. It's just like there's so much there that I'm thinking about. Um, well, yeah, you know, something that we all have, but also only I have, and therefore nobody else but me can utilize it. Speaking of dogs, utilize it, abandon it, um, uh, overshadow it, undermine it. The only person who can really, really do that is me, and that would be my own intuition,
Oh,
and
there you go.
my
Amazing.
own intuition and my own heart. Because
Yeah.
the songs that I've said this before, I feel as though, like, actually my greatness lies in my humility in a way, right? Like, I can have confidence and still know that I'm like small, and know that I'm like significant but insignificant, or like I'm only a piece, you know, like,
Yeah.
all those things, that awareness can exist at once. And I say that because there have been times where I've acknowledged, like, I'm a great guitar player, and then had people be like, "Oh, kid, you're so arrogant." I'm like, well, but one of the reasons actually that I am great at all with anything, music or otherwise, is because I'm actually curious first.
Yeah.
And that curiosity leads me to that understanding of like, there's constantly more stuff to know. And it makes it harder to, like, when you have that understanding, to like be offended by things. And then if you're not as easily offended, then you take criticism better, and if you take criticism better, then you grow, right? And then like, with that growth can come like the mastery of something. And then when you don't even really fully believe in mastery, then like, that's how you become a master according to everybody else. And so my um like curiosity and my intuition, and this is coming full circle, my desire, and my romanticism about human beings, but way beyond human beings, just like experiencing, full stop, period, that just experiencing, is the tool that you'll have to kill me first, and then, even then, I don't know that you could have stopped it because it already exists. Like,
Yeah.
all of, all of the beauty and all of the stuff that I've ever created, and the impact that it has already started to have, and like the domino effect and butterfly effect of that, like, is already spiraling out of control, doing its own thing. So like, I'm in that way. I wrote this song called "Living Like This." There's a lot of really good stuff in there, but it's very, very, very simple song. And the ending is just a refrain of, if I'm gone, just put me on. I'm never really gone when you put me on. I am forever. I am forever. I am forever. So when I'm gone, just put me on, you know? And it just keeps saying that over and over and over again. The reason for that being, like, I really do believe, whether I'm physically alive, but I'm gone in a way, like I'm not present with somebody, whether that's a fan base and an audience that I've played with or played for, you know, in the past, but they're like, God, it would be really lovely to, you know, like, be with Raine again. It's like, well, I promise you, I can't speak for other people, but I promise you that when I made this, that I made it with a lot of integrity and a lot of honesty. And also, I didn't stronghold it. And then that way it's actually more honest, because that would be like going back in and editing this entire conversation instead of just like letting it breathe and be what it is, and with all the stammers and all. And so I'm learning how to let like my ears and my eyes just be unplugged enough to hear that which already is, and which I think already wanted to exist and already wanted to come through, and be more of a vessel of like celebration than a creator. I don't really look at myself as much of a creator as more of like, maybe if people, like the people that I think are really like masterful, clear creators, where when they saying something, everyone in the room feels the same thing, because the clarity of their feeling and their emotion and the power of it is so sharp and so pointed that it hits everyone in the exact same muscle fiber almost. They're like, oh, that's this feeling right here. Yep. And it's not like vague. Like there's some art and some music out there which has a little bit more of a vague net casting. Yeah. Okay. But it doesn't like
boom. Yeah.
And when it does that, and everyone just goes, I don't know, just tears run down your face, like, I understand. And like that's all you can say. Like, and you just know that everyone does, because you are so, it's like the difference between crying because you want a cookie and you're not getting what you want, and crying because like the love of your life just like died right in front of you, and you have that like ugly snot running down your face, throwing up, like I could be screaming, I don't even care, like the love of my life just perished. Like that kind of like undeniability and clarity of a feeling and emotion is like it. Yeah, that's the thing that I don't really care to make music unless it does that. Not necessarily like call out for grievance, not like that kind of heaviness, sure, but just like that level of like honesty and clarity, in which like it's more like witness me react to witness me witness, as opposed to witness me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, so well put. You're massively beautiful with your words. What new toy do you suggest?
Ooh. Wow. Okay. Well, okay. I've got like a metaphysical answer and I've got a physical answer.
Good.
One, if you're a musician, or an artist of any kind, the tool that I suggest is approaching your art from a place that you never have before.
Yeah.
Like the initiation of it. So if you're a guitar player, I'm sorry, dude, grab a bass or a piano instead. Yeah. Next time. Even if you literally aren't good at it or don't know how to do it. Like you no, don't tell me you're a musician and you can't figure out how to tinker on another instrument for starters. But even if you're not proficient at it, I find that there's not really maybe there's a lack of inspiration or a lack of motivation, but there's no such thing as like writer's block or like the inability to truly like be creative. I think sometimes you just need to like go to a different environment or a new approach, because things can get stale, but maybe your approach can get stale, but nothing is actually stale. Like music isn't stale. Music didn't forget how to dance. You did. And so, but the beautiful thing about forgetting is that you can always remember. So, yeah.
Hey, Raine, let me interrupt your number one was so resonant with McLuhan's great line. Carefully make plans, then do the opposite.
Oh,
Oh, I know this. I gotta make this song with my guitar, and then go, no, I'm gonna go make it with a kazoo.
yeah, totally.
That was a good number one. Now, what was your number two? I love this.
Yeah, so
Favorite
uh,
toy. Number one is Switch.
yeah.
Number two is
Number two, in terms of a new toy. Um, oh gosh, can I have two?
sure. You can have as many as you want.
Okay, great. Um, okay, so in like a very literal music sense, right? So like switch up instruments or switch up paintbrushes or something like that, switch up your palette, switch up your location. So that's one. Um another new toy would be that I have been enjoying is actually like synthesizers.
Yeah.
I'm just like, synthesizers are so fun. I love, even with just one synthesizer, like you can get so creative with all the knobs and dials and switches, and I think that it's a definitely a toy and a tool in the same way that there's creating, but there's also playing. Um, and so yeah, I love like these brilliant devices that have so much technicality going into the build of them, but they lend themselves to like um what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe it starts with a W. Um I don't know. I love serious things that lend themselves to silliness.
Yes.
And that's what a
Good.
synthesizer feels like to me. It feels like a serious, really, really intellectually manifested piece
Yeah.
of something. It's a something, and it lends itself um to sounds that go. It's just like so ridiculous, and for that reason, if you want to just have a ridiculous time, even if it's not serious or for the sake of outputting anything serious, get your hands on a synthesizer. Musician, like serious musician or not, it's a serious sandwich. You create something. It's like a chicken and egg thing. It's like you have this feeling which is kind of silly, and then you're like, I want to make more of these feelings, so I'm gonna do this
Yeah.
serious thing and build the synthesizer so that I can come up with more silly sounds, so that I can have hopefully a very serious music career or have like a serious impact on other people so that they can do something silly, which is dance.
It's again another great Zappa line. I'm very serious about being not serious.
Yes, exactly. I
So
feel
what do you?
very, I feel very
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Um, well, this also brings it back full circle. My ability to like sleep long enough
Yeah.
personally, right? Like, so this is just like, not observing the rest of the world, but more so just like in my own self. I hope that like I won't wake up too soon, because when I do have a very, very difficult time going back to sleep, and I know that healing is something that's emotional and physical, and that you can't really, I mean, you can physically heal without emotionally healing, sure, but you definitely can't emotionally heal without like physically healing. I mean, you can, but not really, because you know I dare somebody to try to like get over a divorce and or get over themselves, get over their own ego, or whatever, and just like eat Twinkies for the next month and do that. Try it. Try it. Go crazy. I'd love to see the report. um so yeah, I think for me, ironically worry about actually sleeping when I go to sleep. I'm like, God, I really hope that I do this. And
Pleasant dreams. Well, here's McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists, musicians, all types of artists, are the antenna of the race. They're
yes.
broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions. So we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Raine, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us? It's sort of like when you said that aha moment, when people they all get that universality aha. When that happens, why? I'm not trying to sound elitist and say, oh, people
No,
don't get it, but I'm just saying
you're
people
not wrong.
do ignore these hidden psychic effects that the
Yes.
artists are broadcasting. Why
Yes.
do we ignore them?
Control. I mean, well, okay. It's a very much so like a powers that be thing answer, mixed
Yeah.
with control, mixed with illusions of identity. Um, right. So if I am conditioned to think that my purpose, my identity, my the way that my wheel locks into the rest of the machine and turns, and its effectiveness, and therefore my worthiness. If all of those things are actually connected to something that is actually a product of the culture and a product of that era, and not a product of some fundamental truth like the love a mother has for her child and vice versa, but is actually the product of that specific regime and that specific system or whatever, then it's built into something external and something that is fluid and changeable. And then if the system, like the monetary system, fluctuates and dips and dives, and so does my self-worth if it's too attached to it and I actually buy into it and I believe that. And so I think that we have like a lot of people who are under the guise this of these falsehoods that, their worth, reality, 3D, 4D, 5D, 2D, whatever, all of these things are far too dictated and controlled by um, by a presence outside of themselves, instead of like listening to that. Because the truth is, I think, is that people are ignoring, but they're not perceiving it. If you step foot into a room and you go, ah, and you like strum with the force of 10,000 angels backing you, like the truth that you're more vulnerably like letting in, everyone in the room is going to be shaken to their core. Now, it just depends on like the degree of their indoctrination and the degree to which they've been practicing this falsity of their identity and their value being tied to something that's fake or something that's not real or something that's evil or some, you know what I mean? And so um I think that I think artists are calling to like the natural inside of human beings. And I think that it requires a lot of unnatural practice to
Yeah.
not hear the artist.
Yeah.
And I think that I think one of the best ways to control an entire population of people is not with like literal chains around their wrists or around their ankles, because that's a lot of stuff and that's a lot of time and effort and like labor that the state or whoever, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or your dad, I don't know, whoever's trying to control you, that's a lot of effort for them. However, if they can get you to be preoccupied with your own self-hatred, like that's going to keep you busy. and
Totally.
if, and if you can be in such a state of disconnection with yourself all the time, then it is the job of the artist to be connected to themselves via like the umbilical cord of the universe and of that, you know, truth that's truer than one era or like one lifetime or one person. And if you can be connected to that, right, then you can help like remind people of their own umbilical cord. I think sometimes people just forget that they have one, because they've been like, they're like blindfolded and they're taking a machete and they're trying to just like hack it off and don't even realize that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like you can definitely hurt this, you know, umbilical cord, but you can't actually cut it, because once you do, you're dead. And then actually, once you're dead, your umbilical cord's probably stronger than it's ever been. So it's like, you know,
So amazing. These three words that McLuhan wrote to Pound was needle the somnambulism, because we are in this somnambulous state and artists are trying to needle that out of that. Like you're trying to fall asleep and artists are trying to get you out of your zombie sleep state. So
yes.
do artists have moral obligation?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that and this is why I've actually had some people find me to be arrogant, because I do think that some art is more important than other art for this reason that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
I don't think that all, I think that the intention of the art, I think that the awareness with which that created the art, because it's like casting a spell, right? It's like creating a tool. And the effectiveness of that tool has a lot to do with the way the inventor and like the you know, the stuff that went into it. So if I use more pure, healthy ingredients to make you a meal, then the energy is going to last longer and be more effective. And so I definitely believe that you can test and measure the validity of a belief by like measuring its outcomes. So if I think that, you know, it's really good for everyone to, right, like eat Twinkies. Okay, and then somebody else thinks that it's better for you to eat kale. Let's measure it. Let's test it. And I think, and I not only do I think you can, I know you can, because we've done it.
Yeah.
And so you definitely can measure the impact, the very, very real impact that certain cultural beliefs and certain art and music, which very much heavily reflects the culture, but also affects the culture.
Yeah.
And so, for a fact, like you said, like, oh, call me elitist, I guess, but like, you're entitled to your opinion. It doesn't mean that it's right.
Yep, exactly.
You know, you're entitled to like the things that you think you like, and you're entitled to believe that it's the same thing as you, and you're entitled to be really defensive about that if you want to be. But I actually think that the irony is the people who would call me arrogant or you know, call you and I elitist for saying something like this, in a way are, without knowing it, they themselves, it's a projection, because they're like, you think that some art is better than others. And I'm like, yes, I do. And I think that and I observe that not from a place of wanting that to be the case, because gosh, wouldn't it just be ideal if nothing mattered and everything just was whatever? And then it just like wouldn't matter. But because I know that that's not true, I'm actually sitting back and I'm observing, like any scientist would, the results of the curiosity and the skepticism or the doubt or whatever. And I'm looking at patterns here, right? Music is a pattern. Math is a pattern. Behavior has a pattern. All of these things are connected. And so, yeah, I absolutely think that. What precisely was your question again?
Do artists have moral obligation?
Yes, I do think. I think that we do, especially because artists are supposed to reflect the times and shape them and steer people in a direction. And so I think that if you are an artist, you already know that that's the truth. And if you don't, and I will go as far as to say this might even be extreme to some people. I would say that if you don't think that you're not an artist.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing because you said pattern recognition. That's a key thing. Pattern recognition leads to comprehensive awareness. That's the big picture. So, Marshall said understanding is not having a point of view, it's trying to suss out the
Oh,
both ends of the spectrum. What do you think, Raine? Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
are you still able to hear
You cut out there a little, yeah. You still froze up, yeah.
or I'm
Oh,
freezing up?
there
Somebody's
you go.
freezing.
There you go. You came back on. So, are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas? You could, having some tech problems, you could go out and come back in. Okay, Raine Stern, we hope you'll visit her website and more especially her YouTube channel. Amazing singer, songwriter, and composer. And hopefully we'll regain connection very soon. So, Raine, go out and come back in. Let's try that.
See me and hear me?
Good.
Okay.
Super.
All right, great. I don't know
Okay.
what was going on. I just connected on a different device because I'm wondering if my laptop was being strange for a second. The last thing I remember you asking me was um about new ideas or old ideas.
Yeah. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Oh goodness. I think the first thing I said initially, we'll see, cuz I actually really relate to pretty much all the stuff, all these different artists that brilliant people you've been bringing up over the course of the conversation. And one of those things was somebody like knowing what they think once they've started to speak on something. And sometimes that happens to me. I think I'm not. I guess I'll start here. I don't actually really think I'm afraid of ideas. Period. Um, what I but um, I'll tell you this. I'm I'm more of afraid of like a lack of um individuality when it comes to thinking, but also a lack of that individuality then leading to people to the understanding that like community is the answer. So it might sound kind of um backwards or something in a way, but I think that there's a degree of individualism that is actually the resultant product of people not thinking for themselves, if you know what I mean. And so people are just like being told, like, hey, um, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, to each their, fend for yourself, screw everybody else. And they're being told to not be community oriented, which is ultimately only feeds I think a selected group of like wealthy people to have people not like I'm getting political with it a little bit, but to not have people be
community focused. Am I more afraid of old ideas or new ideas? I'm just afraid of ideas that at all that that lead people to any one conclusion or any one answer, because I think that um, too much certainty um, results in like almost a crystallization of self, and I don't think that we are rocks. I think that we're fluid, and I think that we're supposed to like ebb and flow with circumstance and context and time. And so I'll tell you a couple of literal things that I am concerned about, though. Um, I'm concerned with, um, you know, an older. I don't know if this is an older or newer idea. But I'm definitely, as you can imagine, I'm not a fan of um, I'm not a fan of anything like bigotry. I'm not a fan of misogyny. I'm not a fan of um, the notion that um, you know God is something or someone that only some of us have access to. And I'm not a fan of the idea that somebody like Elon Musk thinks that, and this is me personally, people can have very different feelings about this. We're in a very, I think, divided time in regards to like things like artificial intelligence, but I'm not the biggest fan of this idea that we're creating God, or that we can, um, and that, yeah, I don't know, the artificial intelligence spooks me. I do not appreciate the blindness that comes with commodifying art, but also making it, yeah, you're not an artist if you press a button and you generate a song. You didn't create anything, and without intention, I don't, um, even if that intention is just to feel and to express and you're not really thinking too hard, there's still intention in it. And without the intention being real expression, then I don't trust it. And so I have a huge lack of trust for, uh, I suppose, what I would call an old idea, rooted in um, control. Like,
Yeah.
I think the um, trying to control ourselves and other people in ways that are, I mean, some people would argue that nothing's unnatural. But like if it exists at all and we're able to perceive it, then it's natural. Um, but oh, this is a rambly answer, but it's a very interesting question. Um, what
Well,
do you
Raine,
think? I'm curious.
you tackled it well. Again, Winston Churchill said, "We shape our buildings, then they shape us." That caused
Yeah,
McLuhan reworded it. He just didn't take aphorisms for an epiphany. He says, "Well, how do we reinvent that?" He says, "We shape our tools, then they shape us." So
sure.
AI's in its infant stage. It's our job to raise it well. And I love your
Right.
concern for old ideas, and in the next question sort of flows in perfectly. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Yeah, totally. Actually, one of my earliest memories is is in my parents' bedroom. I was not if I was saying words yet. It was um it was my own language. Like
Yeah.
it was not English. Um and I remember my mother sitting in a chair that had a blue seat. Um I can see the pattern on it. It was very like paisley like, some of the shapes. Um Dark dark, beautiful wood. Like that classic like claw hand
Yeah.
shape for the handles. And it wasn't the world's most like ideal comfy chair for like a mother to sit in, but I do remember the light shining through the window coming from the south. Um and I remember like the way my mother's skin feels. She must have been like 32, very young. Um 32, maybe 33. Um yeah, she's probably 33 cuz I think yeah, cuz I was not like 2 months old, you know. But I don't think I was a year yet either. Or maybe I was a year, but not much older than that. Uh I was really, 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 really little. And I know that there are some people that would be like, that's impossible. You don't have a memory from then, but like it's very vivid to me. Um
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
wow. Um hmm. I think it's more of a blessing because I think the truth is not a is not a curse. And I think if your memory is accurate, then it just helps you to retain the truth more often. I think one of the like reasons that like let's talk about like mental health for example. Um when I'm in a state of like panic or anxiety, um that's usually when I'm failing to remember um my own abilities, um or I'm failing to remember the countless times of connection and love and beauty and various reminders that what I just use the um catch-all word God for, like, has appeared in my life in many ways, many shapes, many forms, many times, and said, I'm with you. um you know uh you're good enough. Like, all of these things are, I've already like experienced profound wisdom and deep pain and all these different things, and God, if only I could remember them, uh then it's like all of the fuel that I would ever need to get off my ass and motivate and believe, say, in myself, all exists in a memory. um and I don't think there's any memory that I have, even the most painful ones or even the most disgusting ones, that aren't worth remembering. I think that it's entirely about like choosing to alchemize um, like pain and stuff around us into something that's more beautiful. So I would
Yeah.
say that all of life experience um, is a blessing, even when it's like disgusting. Like,
Yeah.
is war a blessing? No, but it is a choice, and maybe it was a choice that was made as a result of not remembering, like not remembering what it feels like to be loved or to experience joy. Because I think we come into this world kicking and screaming and ready
Yeah.
to receive and experience anything. And I think a lot of times the mistake is in the forgetting.
Well, Raine, you touched on something really heavy there, and I love your verb alchemize pain.
Mm.
Amazing combination of words. I wrote an essay recently called "Can Art Stop War?" and hopefully we can do a
Mhm.
part two because I got to run in 10 minutes. We got
Yeah.
about 10 more minutes, but let's do a part two down the road so we can really
Yes,
get into
sir.
music and a lot more of these background philosophical questions. But I just wanted to tell
Totally.
you, you've said this, the mother holding the baby, so many times. And I asked Peter Sellers, the great opera director, what caused matriarchy, and he said a mother holding a baby. And that's
Mhm.
what I base my Can Art Stop War article on. Is it's called matristic civilization, that we're brainwashed to believe that we're hardwired for violence, and really
Mhm.
we're hardwired for cooperation.
Yes.
And that's Maria Gimbutas proved this along with Rian Eisler. But I would like to know, tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Wow. Well, so I just thought of every single one of my immediate family members, but um, I have learned more about what I both do and don't want um, via my father. Um, he's a deeply sensitive person, but I've watched him um, use his sensitivity. Um, and I think, many of us have learned to do this. And so he's not alone in this way. And so he's not worth distinguishing in any negative way, but just loving and understanding. However, I've watched him use his own sensitivity to victimize himself
Wow.
and to distinguish himself and to separate himself. And so I care not to point that out to distinguish him or to separate him, but actually to do the exact opposite and to extend love and compassion in his direction, because I realized that sensitivity is not meant to be used to victimize ourselves or to victimize others, but is meant to be used in a fruitful means of awareness and connection. So if you have sensitivity, um, let it stay on. I don't think that you need to turn your sensitivity off. I think that you just need to put it in an environment where it can continue to be as it naturally is. And so that's what I'm trying to learn about my for myself, is to no longer punish myself for the creature that I naturally am, but to figure out how to work with it and celebrate it, because this kind of brings me full circle as well. I think my existence, the art that I make, and the love and beauty and like this conversation and you and everything around me are all uh, connected and all a justification and me a reason to like sing and dance, and that's why I do that. And like I guess last note that I'll leave off on is I see my life purpose and the art that I make, the potency with which I make it, being an invitation and a reminder and a remembrance um, to uh, to celebrate. Maybe I've said that word multiple times, and maybe it sounds silly, but I really see it as like the same thing as just demonstrating um, authenticity and love and connection by being willing to be the first person to make a fool of themselves on the dance floor, and let that be like an invitation to other people around you, and realize that you otherwise don't have any control. All you have the ability to do is to like worship and cry and celebrate and truly just express.
Yeah.
And so that's why when you asked me, like, the very very first question, the first word that came out of my mouth was authenticity,
Yeah.
because I find that in my true authenticity lies all of the answers, and that I don't really need to create much but just do a lot more observing. So
Yeah, really good, Rain, because if the fool persist in their folly, they become wise. And the word celebrate is so important. I love the cliche, if you can't say it, sing it. And if you can't sing
mm,
it, dance it. And you've
oh
said so many times, sing and dance. You've really combined
yeah.
the two. It's such a great. Now, tell me someone outside your immediate family, because you were so articulate about your dad. I felt like I was meeting him, the way you
Yeah.
describe him. Now, the same question outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Mm. Mm. Okay. Um. So many beautiful people, but um, the very first person, and this is just at this moment in time. It could have cut me at a different moment. It could have been somebody else, but this very moment, the person I'm going to cite is Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Yeah.
and the reason for that being that, God, sure, he's technically a masterful guitar player, but my favorite thing about that man, in the way that he's affected me so deeply, is not like in his technical playing, but like in just the sheer force
Yeah.
with which he like pours his heart and his feelings into his playing. It makes me want to cry, to be honest. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's so good. It's so like raw, and and I really don't care to explain it any further than that, because I think that his playing does all of the talking. Because again, language fails, music fills in the gaps, and like those feelings fill in the gaps, and that's why we have that. So if anybody's watching and they're like, what is she talking about, don't listen to me talk and go listen to him play.
Yeah, right on. I mean, his hero was Albert King, and he says, "The sky is crying. Look at the tears run down its face." I mean, that was amazing when Stevie
uh,
played with Albert too, because it
uh,
was like, good God. So let's end this part one, and I'm so enlightened by your presence here today, Raine. You really taught me a lot. I really
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much, Gary.
Yeah, and I wanted to end with this one just because I want to start part two and get into music, but I want the word you've said a lot is truth and authenticity. And Shelby Foote said this line that's unique. A fact is not a truth until you love it. Any response
uh,
to that line?
a fact is not a truth until you love it. I think the way that I interpret that is that what she's in a way, it's kind of like saying things don't hold weight until like you let them. Like things don't result, a belief system doesn't result in actions until you believe it enough to actually create the action. And so um it's like there's that cult where that guy had everyone drink Kool-Aid. I'm trying to remember his name. um but I think we all either know who
Yeah,
I'm talking about or could very easily.
Jonestown. Yeah.
That's right, Jonestown. Yeah, with drinking like the cyanide or whatever it was. Right. Well, so none of those people would have died without belief, and belief is a powerful thing. Um, John Mayer has this line where he says, "Belief is a beautiful armor, but makes for the heaviest sword."
Yeah.
And he also says, like punching underwater, you never can hit who you're trying for. And so, I don't know that I know what he means though. He's talking about war essentially in this specific context, but um wow. Things aren't true until you love them, or a fact isn't true until you love it. Um I don't agree with that in technically speaking, but I do
Yeah.
know what she means,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, it's so fun because there's so many more I want to delve into, and I'll just read you a couple and then we'll
Okay.
start part two with them. Because here's Eartha Kitt. Truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever. And it's like, whoa. I love where she slips in, only lies, it seems, go on forever. And then, the one that started me on this pursuit of truth quotes was Louis Buñuel said, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
You have
but
to be in
wait,
constant seek of the truth in order to even be somebody I want to
yeah,
spend my
but
time with.
Raine, you're like everybody goes, that's great, I love it. And one guy finally said, dude, that's bullshit. Because if I'm gonna seek something, it's because I want to find it. So
Yeah,
I morphed it into the cliche goes, the journey's more important than the destination. Well, why do we even
yeah,
have to name or seek a destination if the journey's more important? So I
right.
mean, it goes on for infinity here. Like the great Lord Buckley said, dig
Well,
infinity.
okay, so I do love that quote, right?
Yeah,
But and I know you got to go, so this is all I have to say about it. But while I do love that, what he's saying, like, I love truth seekers, but I choose to part ways whenever they claim to
yeah,
have like found it or claim it or know it. Um, and at the same time, I said earlier that you can like test the validity and integrity of like a person's belief system,
yeah,
and I do believe that to be true. Um, I think what I really to get more specific with it, I don't choose to part ways with somebody once they've decided to like know
yeah,
what the truth is. I choose to part ways with somebody who's more concerned with marrying themselves stubbornly
yeah,
to the truth than they are to a principle, which I actually do find to be true. So in a way, it's kind of, but the principle that and a willingness to forever be wrong.
yeah,
I think if you can forever be willing to be wrong,
yeah,
um, but then you claim to like I believe that I found the truth in this way or in this thing, then I'm okay with it. I'm actually more likely to trust you
yeah,
if I know that if we were to discover more information and unpack further, that you would be like, okay, well then turns out like that wasn't totally it, and I'm wrong. Um, so the willingness to be wrong with the desire to seek the truth, I think, makes for
yeah.
a person with a lot of integrity.
Beautiful. I love you starting with the word integrity and ending part one with that. I look forward to part two, Raine. It's really been a
Yes, sir.
pleasure. And more so, I want to play some funky music with you because my favorite word is funky
Yes.
because words evoke more than their meaning. Fun is the key.
Yes,
Funky.
sir. Funky.
Thank
Love.
you, Raine. I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, but I hope this never ends and we can keep talking and
Yes, sir.
funking out forever and ever. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Jerry. Thank you so much too. Have a beautiful one. Bye.
You too. Bye. Thank you.